You've definitely seen the clickbait, right? How to get ahead of 99% of people starting today. It's literally the exact hook every internet guru uses to grab your attention. And hey, it's an incredibly enticing promise. I mean, we all want to be at the top. But the advice that usually follows is, quite frankly, completely broken. So let's take a step back and look at what the reality of extreme success actually looks like.
Welcome to This Explainer. Over the next few minutes, we're breaking down author and entrepreneur Mark Manson's brilliant reality check on why standard hustle culture advice is just an absolute illusion. We're going to look at some wild historical examples, untangle the actual math of being in the top 1%, and ask the hard questions about what it really takes to achieve that level of success. And honestly, whether you even want it in the first place.
All right, Section 1, the productivity myth. Let's get into it.
We're starting off by actively dismantling the wildly popular beliefs about what it takes to be elite. So, internet gurus are constantly yelling at us, right? Have goals, be disciplined, go into monk mode. But there's a massive fundamental mathematical flaw in that logic. Think about it. Your mailman has goals. Your housekeeper is disciplined. Millions of people are trying out monk mode right this second. If you can jump online and find hundreds of videos telling you to do something, it is, by definition, common. You absolutely cannot beat 99% of people by doing the exact same routines that millions of others are doing. To truly be in that top 1%, you literally have to do what 99% of people are unwilling to do.
To prove just how irrelevant generic morning routines are, let's look at Mark Manson's own origin story. When he was building his first business, his routine was definitely not a 4 a.m. ice bath followed by an hour of meditation. No, he woke up at 11 a.m., grabbed a Red Bull, ate some Reese's peanut butter cups, and worked directly from his bed for a few hours. And guess what? He built a six-figure business in his mid-20s doing exactly that. The picture-perfect productivity hacks simply did not matter.
Moving right along to Section 2, the extreme success formula.
Let's see how this all builds into what actually separates the 1% from everyone else. The crucial point here is this seemingly simple but brutally difficult three-step formula for extreme success. Step 1, you have to have a contrarian idea. Most people just go with the flow, but you actually have to think for yourself. Step 2, be correct about that idea. Now this is the hardest part, because let's face it, most contrarian ideas are just horribly, embarrassingly wrong. And finally, Step 3, execute on it massively. Put yourself out there. But notice something really important here. Execution is only Step 3.
This quote really says it all. Execution is necessary, it's just not sufficient. We obsess over execution, don't we? We want to track exactly what time billionaires wake up, what fancy supplements they take, what obscure productivity apps they use. Why? Because execution is super easy to observe, and it's really easy to replicate. But it's fundamentally overrated. If you don't have that correct contrarian idea first, all the execution in the world is just going to make you highly efficient at being average.
Let's look at some real-world proof. Steve Jobs didn't change the world because he woke up early and ate a ton of fruit. He achieved extreme success because he possessed a contrarian vision. A full decade before anyone else on the planet believed it was even remotely possible, he believed a personal computer would sit on every single desk in the world. He was a contrarian, and he happened to be perfectly correct. We also love looking at elite athletes for habit inspiration. But consider this. Before his games, Kobe Bryant would regularly crush pepperoni pizza and drink grape or orange soda. Now, eating Kobe's wildly unhealthy pregame meal is obviously not going to magically give you a legendary fadeaway jumper. The secret wasn't the pizza. The secret was the underlying vision, drive, and immense talent he brought to the court. And if you think that's just an exception, consider Winston Churchill. The man essentially guided Britain through World War II while sitting in a bathtub drinking scotch throughout the day. The real world of extreme success is incredibly messy. It proves that strict aesthetic discipline and those picture-perfect routines are vastly less important than making the right, correct contrarian decisions when the stakes are at their absolute highest. Or take Thomas Edison. Yes, he famously worked for days straight, sleeping only 1 hour a night in his lab. But his secret weapon wasn't a beautifully organized bullet journal or a time-blocking app, it was literally cocaine. We have to remember that historical breakthroughs often came from ridiculous, messy, or even completely unhinged circumstances. They definitely didn't come from neatly packaged life hacks. The reality is that success is highly concentrated. Mark Manson has sold millions of books, created courses, and toured the globe. Yet about 90% of those massive results came from just 2 or 3 correct contrarian ideas.
For instance, he realized that contrary to conventional wisdom at the time, millennials and young men actually did want self-help literature. It just needed to be communicated in a totally different way. That one single idea drove almost everything else.
Now think about this number, 12. Over a 58-year career managing Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett, a man who famously hits up the McDonald's drive-thru for breakfast almost every single morning, attributes his astronomical, world-changing success to just about a dozen truly good decisions. A dozen decisions in 60 years. It's wild. It's really not intuitive that one simple choice can have such an outsized impact, but that is the reality of the 1%. Now that we know how extreme success is actually built, we have to pivot and look at the brutal hidden costs of achieving it.
Section 3. The dark side of success.
Because look, if you want to be a correct contrarian, you have to be fully prepared to be an incorrect contrarian constantly, and that comes with some severe hidden costs. First off, nobody likes a contrarian. When you step outside the norm, people literally think you're crazy. You are going to fail miserably, and you're going to be embarrassingly wrong a lot. Manson notes that when he quit his safe corporate job to chase an internet business, friends just stopped hanging out with him, and his family basically thought he was dealing drugs. And perhaps the biggest pill to swallow? Success itself does not magically bring you happiness.
Which brings us to a really vital concept, the amplification effect. So many people chase that top 1% because they desperately crave validation. They think success will somehow heal them. But extreme success only amplifies who you already are and how you already feel. If you're angry and depressed right now, getting rich and successful is just going to make you an angrier, more depressed person who happens to have a much larger platform. If you have great relationships and joy, success might amplify that, but it absolutely does not fix your internal flaws.
And that brings us to Section 4, redefining your success. This is the ultimate question we have to answer before we run ourselves into the ground chasing internet hype.
Here is the truly liberating truth. If your goal is just superficial wealth, you want to buy a nice car, pop a fancy bottle of champagne on the weekend, and just have solid financial comfort, that is totally 100% fine. But you have to realize that that lifestyle only requires being about 80% successful. It does not require you to enter the grueling, alienating, thoroughly misunderstood realm of the 99%. You can have a fantastic, comfortable life without sacrificing everything to become a historical anomaly.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to take a second, look at this question, and be brutally honest with yourself. Why do you actually want to become more successful than 99% of people? Is it because you possess a burning contrarian idea that you literally cannot ignore? Or are you just chasing empty validation by copying someone else's morning routine? Take the time to define what success actually means to you before you sacrifice your entire life trying to achieve someone else's illusion.